You know
Cool,
what? You know
man.
what I'd like to hear? I'd like to hear stories of some of the people that he interviewed.
That's what we're gonna do. Yeah,
You're gonna do. Oh, look at that! We're on synchronicity.
yeah. No, that's what I was gonna say. So tell us some of the positive or some of the more fantastic, beautiful experiences that you've heard on your show.
Oh, okay. Well, I tell you, we had this one guy on the show.
Yeah, this is fun. Thanks everybody for watching us today. We appreciate it.
I think we need to ask him about his chair too. I think
That's
that's important.
that's definitely a gamer chair.
Look at my chair. Can you see my chair? Look, there's like
That's just
stuff falling off. This is my seat. This is my seat cover here.
oh wow, that's kind of real tacky.
And then
Ticky tack.
then you can see what do you call it? Where's my see the arm here? See, it's got
Oh yeah.
tape on it. This other one's got a rag on it because it's like falling apart on this thing.
You got a real budget
You
basement
think it'd be
budget.
budget based? I think I spent $200 or $300 for this damn thing.
I got a pretty good one, but it's not a gamer chair. I quit gaming because my wife don't like me gaming. I
Well, your
when I
wife
first met
just
her, I
your
was
wife
gaming a little bit, and she was giving me heck, so I just said, okay, I'll quit.
your wife just sent me a message with something about a snake on it. So hi Susan.
She did sent you a message.
Yeah,
Why don't she message me?
something about artist venom update. I'm not really sure what that is.
What?
Doctor Artist venom update. Oh, the mic went out. Somehow your mic went out there, Mr. Porco.
Oh, wait a minute. No, I muted it. See, I'm a professional. When I go and look at stuff or I cough or anything, I mute my mic. I'm a professional.
Yeah,
Hey, okay.
that's a professional faux pas.
Yeah.
Okay, so we were going to ask you, and
Yeah.
it's funny because we never think of the same things to ask, but we both thought of it. So
Yeah.
why don't you share some, and you don't have to mention names, of course, because
Okay.
people want anonymity or whatever. But
Yeah.
tell us some of the most remarkable and Sasquatch encounter stories, or
Dog
Yeah.
man.
Okay.
or healing stories, or any of the
I,
woo stuff that you heard that
okay.
really stuck with you.
I've got a pretty cool story. It sheds a positive light on Sasquatch. This is an email that I had gotten. This is maybe several months ago. I've since broadcast this, but not everyone's heard this story, and it's pretty cool. It was a gentleman hiking in the Appalachian Trail, and now he had gone by himself. So he went and he set up his camp early in the morning and set his tent up and made some breakfast. So he went hiking down the trail. So as he's hiking the trail, he says maybe a mile into his hike, in a nice hike, he had makes mention that he feels like he was being flanked on his right side. Can't make out what it is, but he's getting kind of a little spooked. But he continues about his business, and then this flanking or what have you, it stopped and it went away. And he said this went on. Maybe he felt this feeling in his gut for maybe 5, 6, 7 minutes. So he continues about his business, and he goes back down the trail, back to his camp. Excuse me. And when he gets to the camp, he notices around the outside of his tent, he notices footprints, as he says, footprints that he says he thinks they were tracks. And he looked at them, and he says they appeared to be oversized human feet. And in fact, he had sent me a photo, and I look at it, and I can make out impressions. I can make out at least like 3 toes, and some of the other the last 2 digits, maybe the small toe and the other toe, are kind of filled in with the dirt. But it looks something. And he said the measurement on this was like 17 inches and maybe 4 inches wide. He's looking at it, and he says, "Hey Rob, I didn't really think Sasquatch right away, but I knew it was not human. It was just who's walking around barefoot in the Appalachian trails." So he says he thinks nothing of it. Then he's trying to think that maybe when he was being flanked, maybe this was something out in the forest. So he goes on, da da da, goes about his day, he goes fishing. The next morning, he decides to hike up this trail again. And he veered off on his path and went on a different path. And this pathway was more of a challenging trail, and it kind of went up. It kind of was gradually ascended a little bit higher, but nothing major. Enough where if you tumble backwards, you would roll down quite a ways. So during the story, he's now all of a sudden he feels like he's getting flanked. Again, he has this feeling something's out here. Again, he can't make it. He can't make anything out. Continues about his business. He stops, and all of a sudden, across the trail, he sees what he says to be is a Bigfoot. It's something. It jumped out in the middle of the path. He says it was extremely big, and it was there for like 2 seconds, and boom, like in one step, he crossed it, went to the other side, and he says that he got shaken, and he stumbled backwards. And again, as I was explaining, this trail was going upwards. He stumbles backwards, you guys. He's kind of rolling down the hill, and then his head hits like a stump in the trail, and he's rendered unconscious. That's what he's telling me. Now, keep in mind the prior day he thought that there were these big tracks around his tent. He walked around his tent, so now he sees this big object. Well, he says Bigfoot in the story. Boom, boom, loses balance, tumbles backwards, hits his head on a stump. He's out. When he comes to, you guys, he is laying outside of his tent, but he's laying down in foliage, like a lot of soft branches and leaves, shrubbery, but very soft. And he was like laying what he describes as kind of a makeshift bed, and he was laying there. Didn't know how he got there. He did not make this makeshift bed. The man had a tent. He had a sleeping bag, and he was outside of his tent, laying in this like little mattress of some sort. And he gets up. He's perplexed, and he's just, what in the world? And he gets up, and once again, all around this bed, there are these footprints. And then he puts 2 and 2 together. He was being flanked. He saw now what he thinks was a Bigfoot cross the road, startled him. He took a stumble back, hit his head, knocked out. And so he's believing that the Sasquatch carried him to his tent, made the makeshift bed, didn't put him in the tent, but the Sasquatch took time and made something, laid him there, saw the footprints. And I thought that was really a pretty cool story.
That's
And
amazing.
Yeah.
you know, and I get a lot like that, similar to that. I mean, that's one of a kind there. And we've heard the stories about the young child in North Carolina that supposedly was found it was disappeared and was carried by a big furry teddy bear and put in a briar patch and was found. You guys remember hearing that story?
Yeah, that was famous.
And and it is kind of certainly not the same story, but it showed to me, and one of the reasons why my beliefs have changed, the stories like that this guy was cared for by this Sasquatch, and I believe the guy's story, and I think that it was just amazing, right?
Yeah, you can read people's energy and whatever. So I'm sure that when somebody's relating a story and experience to you, they can't really fool you. You can just tell their sincerity just from, their energy and how they're telling it and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
and you really can, and it's a shame every once in a while you'll have somebody talk about a negativity. There's this guy, and this had nothing to do with Sasquatch. He was telling a story about how he parties with aliens and how they come into his yeah, how they come into his home and they go to hang out. So I'm like, what do you mean they you party with aliens? Yeah, man, they come. I said, what do you do? Sit around, drink beers? What? And then, he's just all over the place, looking up and down. Then he goes in a magazine and shows me a picture of an alien. This is what they look like. And I'm like, heaven forbids. Now that was really off the wall. And you don't get too, and this was on a live show. Had I known this, I think we didn't. Yeah, so we now we spun it. We could have called the guy out and been idiots, but we let him tell his story. We got through it. We're listening to him, and the people in the audience in chat, they were kind of laughing. Oh my god, rolling their eyes in chat. I mean, I'm picturing that, like, oh my god. But that's how we are, though. We're cool. You can tell me the craziest story, and I always tell people I believe you because who am I? I never walked in your shoes. That's why I'm so open minded to people. Now that story, again, you guys, I don't think he partied with aliens, but we didn't ridicule this guy though. We didn't say you're full of it, Jack. Leave the show. We let him carry on, asked him further questions, showed him his respect because that's what you need to do. Even if you know somebody is flat ass lying to you, don't make no mind of that. You let them tell their story, give them their airtime because presenting positive light from a person that knows that this person is of ill will, as long as I continue to give them positive energy, that's going to benefit me in the long run. And maybe it'll help that guy out down the road to realize, man, these guys knew I was full of it, but they continue to treat me respectful. So maybe that changes that guy's opinion moving forward. Hopefully he never says that to anybody again, right? So
Or he could have had some,
psychedelics.
no, just mental illness, mental deranged,
Mm,
where he's just not, he doesn't know the difference between lies and truth. There are people like that, and it's like a trauma response. He's trying to whatever, it's something wrong, huh? Something wrong there. Squirrel cage is
Yeah.
stuck.
Just like your serial killer topic you were talking about. I think some of those guys, from what I've heard, they actually don't believe they're actually guilty. They can convince themselves that they, because they're. I
but
mean,
they're
I don't know.
doing
Have
no
you
wrong.
heard? Have you heard
I've
that?
I've I've heard theories like that. I've also heard something earlier that Michael was just talking about. Is I do believe that there are people now. Again, mental illness. That's a tough subject, and I my heart goes out to people that suffer that and have that in your family. But I think that some people, though, if they lie enough where they believe their own lies, right? Where they are now
Yeah.
convinced of what they seen, they saw, and they made it up, but they are convinced, and maybe that is a mental illness. But I think some people are born that way. I think they were born just not to be honest.
What do you think of some of the abilities that people talk about that Sasquatch have, like shape shifting, cloaking, mind speak, healings, and stuff like that? Have you heard
Yeah, well,
some
I do again.
stories about that?
I certainly have. Well, again, I get obviously Robin, a good friend of mine, Christy Sci-Fi. I
Yeah.
spoke with her all the time, and she's in communication with these. Duke Sullivan even was started out his career strictly flesh and blood. Now he has the ability. Now he thinks that there's something else going on with these. I think they can cloak. I talked to Ron Moorhead and I talked to him. He was on the show. And when he first started out, he told me, hey, Rob, you know what? I got to tell you something. When I first started in this, if somebody brought up the woo woo factor, I would not talk to them because I was strictly their flesh and blood creature. So he goes, now I've progressed, years have gone by. Now Ryan is to the point where he thinks that there's something supernatural, paranormal about these things, and he talks about disappearing and moving from spot to spot. Of course, he wrote that book, The Quantum Bigfoot, where you take your energy, mass converts to energy, and if you do it correctly, you can go from one place to another in a matter of minutes. You also believe, and I believe also, I subscribe to the theory. A friend of mine has seen a portal. They've seen a portal in the middle of a pasture. It was a box, it was a cube, it went up, and one of the guys actually stepped foot into the portal, but didn't go all the way through. But you could see when he walked in where you could tell that part of the leg was gone. He pulled out of
Wow.
this. I heard that story before, and this is at a place up in Georgia. And so I've heard that. And the thing, what do you guys think? I also subscribe to the theory too with the cloaking. I think that some of these have different abilities, and I've also heard the theory that I couldn't tell on my encounter when I seen mine, but the translucent, that the hair is hollow or translucent, where a Sasquatch could be standing right next to a tree, just blend right in,
Yeah.
kind of to help
I,
cloak.
I'd like to tell you a few things on that. I've seen them in predator form, where just a shimmery kind of outline, watery, and I've seen them walking around me in that form. But personally, I've experienced this with all of those abilities, where that's kind of like part of the teaching that they're giving me, the student teacher kind of relationship. I've seen them appear out of thin air 3 or 4 times. Twice I saw them walk across a path where they were completely invisible, and then all of a sudden just materialize out of nothing. Something else interesting, one of these occasions, you see, I believe that they can give you they can have you perceive them in any way that they want. They can present themselves to you in any way that they want. My experience is that they can give you any visual, audible, or sensory experience that you want. So one time, and they've shown me this with the lessons that they give me, and it's like they're detailed, right? Okay, they're detailed lesson. It's not just one little. Geez, I think it's like this. It's very, very detailed. Okay, is what I can say. But anyway, so with this perception thing, so one time when I saw the Sasquatch walk across the path and then materialize out of thin air, my friend was with me. Okay, now this guy had only been a couple of years into knowing Sasquatch, or at least being interested in them. I was already quite a ways along in my journey. So when I saw this individual materialize out of thin air, he was a Sasquatch, plastic Sasquatch, 8-9 feet tall, hairy, standard, a definition of a Sasquatch. My friend, my opinion is they didn't want him to see him as a Sasquatch. He actually saw everything I saw, except he saw a small little dog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And the Sasquatch and the little dog that he saw both did the same thing, walked off the trail, going up the hill. And then this is the other interesting thing about it is later that day we went to another place, right? We had camped for a few days, had all kinds of experiences. So we went to this other place because it's just a place I really love and where I've had a lot of experiences. And I said, let's go check this out. And as I'm walking along, and it was kind of dark out, I'm walking along and a thought came in my head. Geez, I wonder if they left me a glyph. Have you heard of glyphs? Little stick writings and stuff? Yes. I said, I wonder if they left me a glyph. And I had a little swivel lamp on my head, right? And it just happened to be pointed down. As soon as I got that thought, I wonder if they left me a glyph, I turned the light on, and right below my feet, illuminated, was a signature glyph of one of the clan members that I know, right? It was and as soon as I saw that, I instantly knew that was the individual that I saw walking across the path. He just left me that. He left me that to tell me that it was him. So, all that is just that one experience talks about cloaking, about how they can give you any perception that you want, how they can put thoughts in your head, how they know what you're going to think and have an answer instantly. there were so many things at play in there, and that's who these people are. They're capable of all of that stuff.
I believe in that 100%. I think I've talked to more people that have similar stories to what you just said. And you talked about something about the perception. A friend of mine, well, Tex, I'm more on the flesh and blood and the super, the paranormal. I didn't even like using that term. Paranormal is something that's unknown. You know, I believe in the cloaking. I believe that they can materialize. I've heard stories about a stump just materializing into a Bigfoot, a person. I've heard
Yeah,
stories about that. We've all heard those. And I've
yeah.
also heard, but here's the thing, Tex, who's my partner, it's why we're such a good team, is he
He's
always
a
likes to
character,
play.
by the way. He's a real character, by the way.
Oh
I
yeah,
watched a bit of your show, and he looks like a fun guy. Yeah,
he's a lot of fun, and he's still not sold on the mind speak or the telepathy, and I am, because again, it's been proven to me, not
yeah.
that I've experienced per se, but the people I talk to, as we've made mention already, I believe, and they just told me things that I know is fact, and I don't usually use the word fact that often talking on the subject. And but now this theory, because now Tex, he researches all the time. He's always out there in Brown Springs, and Tex has seen two dogman. He has seen several Sasquatch. But now where he researches, he's come to this theory that he thinks that where he does his research, it's in a cemetery, part of it anyways, in a water, in a cavern of water, or I don't, what's not a cavern? Underneath the cemetery, there's a flowing water. And he's been out looking, always looking for Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Dogman, whatever. And he is seeing things that he thinks are trying, or that aren't necessarily Sasquatch, but he thinks that they are beings trying to manipulate him into thinking that they're Sasquatch, because they know that's what he's researching. So they're trying to trick him or fool him. So he's thinking that a lot of people that are having actual encounters or alleged encounters aren't really seeing a Sasquatch at all, but it's something else. And that's a big theory that he now is thinking about. Now, of
What
course, he believes in the Bigfoot. He believes in the Dogman. He's seen them. But now he thinks there's a lot of things out there that have intentions, that are trying to mimic these cryptids or these people.
well,
What's your
what's
thoughts?
his reason? What's his reason for thinking that?
Well, he's thinking he's thinking that it's just something else, something supernatural, but something that's pretending to be what he's looking for, serving what other purpose that is. Maybe no nefarious intentions, maybe to follow him home, haunt his house. He just has these things that it could be, because he's thinking that it is in a graveyard and it's in an area where a lot of bad things have happened. That's been known
Okay.
as a dump of people have been murdered there. The mob has been known to drop bodies there. So he thinks there's a lot of negative energy, and they're playing games with him, trying to
Is
make
it
to trick him.
is it possible because he doesn't attribute those abilities to Sasquatch, he doesn't think that they could have them? Could that also be part of it?
I think that he thinks they have abilities. He's just he's kind of coming on the fence. It could be a reason. I think he's just still on the fence with the communicative part of it, right?
Yeah.
He believes in the cloaking. He believes that they can vanish. He believes that aspect, but just this telecommunications, he thinks that it's something else communicating with people, and he thinks that's dangerous.
For his personal experience, or in
His
general?
I'm going to say in general. I'm going to say in general. I can't say from a personal experience. The experiences that he's had with Sasquatch have all been good. His Dogman was kind of scary, but when he knows for a fact he's with a Sasquatch, has always been positive. But when he feels that something's not right, something going on, he thinks it's something else trying to sway him into
Well,
thinking it.
it's possible. I would just like to say, from my personal experience, I've had those kind of things like, like you can tell from my story there, but it's always been extremely positive. And the energy is so loving and beautiful that you can tell. You can just, like we can read a person's personality or who they are through their energy. You can tell when you have these kind of experiences too, if it's benevolent or malevolent, I think. And so my experiences have all been good, but I can't speak for him. And I'm not saying he's not right. It could
No, I
be
mean,
things can impersonate all kinds of stuff. And
yeah. No, that's and again, he's on board with with a lot of my beliefs, but he just thinks there's so much negativity in that particular area that he doesn't know what a lot of things are now. He questions, and he's only come up with this theory maybe the last couple of years because he thought everything was Bigfoot, everything was Dogman, but now he's kind of thinking otherwise. Now there've been Sasquatch prints all over his truck coming back from the research area. I mean, yeah, he's literally. We did a show. He had a show. We had a couple slides on it where there's been tracks around his vehicle, which are clearly made by by Sasquatch. So he's 100% on board with that. He's just now starting to develop these ideas that something else is also out there, right? So, and
A
I think
lot of stuff is out there.
absolutely, and so again, me being open-minded, I believe everything and anything is possible. And so I think that we have to that I think the journey, you have to have an open mind to everything, even things that might sound ridiculous, because who am I to say something's ridiculous? 10
well,
years ago I told you that you're ridiculous, but today I don't.
yeah. The thing is though, is that with shows like yours and with our show or whatever, they're good because I share quite a bit of my stories and whatever and teachings that I've had and other people do. And it gives courage and credence to other people who have had similar experiences that they thought, was like a one-time kind of thing. Because just about every story that I've heard on our show or whatever, there's something that will connect with something I've experienced and vice versa. So
Yep.
there is a consistency running through these stories, and even no matter how crazy and far out and bizarre they sound, that consistency and that runs through them all.
You're actually kind of reading my mind, because I was going to say that it doesn't matter whether it's just your basic Bigfoot crossing the road or something's a little far out there. They all come back. They all have same commonalities, right? And people are just not making this up, because you'd have to study and watch all these shows just to make up some of these things, because the commonality, and what I love about talking to people is because giving them the courage to come forward, whether it's through anonymity or on a live show, is the data that we all can collect. Yeah, we've heard Bigfoot crossing the road 1,000 times, and people might say that's mundane and boring, but to me, it's not, because the more I hear those stories, that's more data that we can add to our database, and we can draw
Yeah.
comparisons. I seen a Bigfoot materialize from a tree stump. Okay, yes, I can. That's data to 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 document. Then you have another thing I was going to touch on: the orbs, right? Every time there's orbs, a lot of people I speak to, they have these orbs in the forest, whether they're greens, blues, yellows, what have you. Then all of a sudden, it happens to be a Sasquatch sighting, or even a
Yeah.
UFO is in an area. What? There's a UFO in the area, and guess what? 3 miles away, there was a Sasquatch sighting or encounter. So, and all this data for us, I don't call myself a researcher, because I mean I go out, but I'm out hardcore at it, because again, my lifestyle I can't do it as much as I'd like to, but to me, I'm a big guy on this data. Every time every time I read a report, every time I have a person on a show, or anytime I get an email, I collect all this, and I can draw comparisons and similarities in everybody's experience. It really is, like you said, phenomenal, and that's important for us all moving forward with this.
What would you say with all the data you've collected and connecting all the dots, like from the commonalities or whatever? So what would your opinion of Sasquatch be now? What would you say they are, and what are they doing, and stuff of that nature?
I would say this. I believe they're a flesh and blood being. I think they're a person. I think they're a hybrid human that has innate abilities. I think that they can be a spiritual entity, and I think it's all in the eye of the beholder too. I think it's in intentions, and I think, like you touched on earlier, it's what they want to present to you.
Yeah,
Because when you talk to the First Nations people, it's a spiritual thing. They again, they can appear, as you mentioned earlier, out of mist, but yet they have the physicality about it. They but they also have their own mysterious things. They can do things that humans cannot do. They've got this element, this ability that we'll never probably figure out. Not that I think we even should. That they present themselves the way we want to see them, because that's why I go flip. That's why I have
absolutely.
the flesh and blood experience, the spirituality depends on the person. That's how they're presented, and I do believe there are people. I believe there's different races, and there's different. They're socialized, right? They do a lot of things that we do, but in a different manner. They roam. They live in the forest. The forest is their home. When we go in the forest, we're infringing on them, right? So that's, in a nutshell, that's what it is for me. Because I'm not one of these guys and say, no, they're flesh and blood only, or no, they're just a spirit, they're just a ghost. No, I don't believe any of that. I believe they have everything is they're embodied in this one entity or person or people that again allows you to see them in whatever light or whatever your intention is.
Let me just, I want Beans to maybe get into some questions or whatever, or comments, but did I hear you say when you were talking about the First Nations, you said mist? Did you say mist? They can appear out of
Appear
mist?
out of mist, yeah, mist, fog.
Okay. Well, there you go. Because you see, now I'm going to tell you something that, once again, dots can, I've seen them appear out of mist. One appeared in, this sounds crazy. I don't really care what it sounds like. One appeared in my room out of mist, like a big cloudy puff of mist, and then he was just there. So, all these things that these people are talking about, these abilities, when we all experience them and talk about them, we start putting two and two together, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
I I think that one of the things that could maybe help the conversation is that we have this idea that a limited idea as to what humans are, for one thing, and then secondly, we look at the Sasquatch as these as like coming from a gorilla family or something like that. But if the Sasquatch came to us as a 10-foot tall, thin, white alien form, right? Then we wouldn't have any problems with them being able to bilocate or disappear or show up as a owl or change shapes or anything, because we have this association that the ET people have these special kind of abilities. Or if they came out of orbs and they were looked like an angel, right? Then we'd say, well, okay, all this makes sense. They talk to me in my head. They could give me visions, and or they come to me in my dreams. But I'm just gonna say that I have a list of like 45 or 50 things that are the same between the Sasquatch and the ETs. The same. It goes from Men in Black, from people doing hush ups, um, following families for several generations. It just goes on, list after list. The ability to change shape and the ability to, like I said, go invisible or walk through walls. All these things. There's like 50 of these things. And then Brian has a list of something like 32 things that are similar between the after effects of a friendship with the Sasquatch and the after effects of having a near death experience. And this is really important data that people's transform their life after you have an experience and get to know the Sasquatch people. Your abilities open up, your heart starts to, be more active in you, as you're more heart centered, you're more spiritual, you're more respect for Mother Nature. You think in terms of less judgment, to judge, being less judgmental, and just on and on. He's got like 30 something things like that. So I just want to throw that out there, that there's an image thing with this. It's our own cognition is for us not being able to go there, because a world where nobody can go invisible and everything is 3D is a different world than if some beings, like the near death people, go in and out of the house, or they go in and out of and then they come back. And then the ET people take people out of their bed and put them back in. They take them out of their car. They take them with their car and put them back in. These are pretty profound paranormal stuff. And then the Sasquatch people. So that's a completely different world. That is a completely different world, different physics, different understanding of what that world is about. And I think that's where we're moving. We're moving towards the underpinnings of quantum physics, the underpinnings of reality is woo. I mean, if you look at it long enough, it has to be that way. It's some kind of a fundamental reality that we're not engaged with, or we're not exposed to. We don't have a history of understanding. Yeah, that's a big problem.
I agree 100% with that too, because I am on the woo side of it. I never, even when, even for something, I even didn't think that. I never subscribed to the ape theory. I never subscribed to Gigantopithecus. They're not. It's not these are, they are a piece. They're a people. They're a race, right? They're like Robin Drops hybrid human of some sort. I like to say it's a flesh and blood person with these innate abilities that we'll never understand. And what do you guys think about this? I was talking to people that were talking about aliens. Some people subscribe to the theory that they think that actual Sasquatch are aliens. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to say they're not.
Well, I would say that we are humans, and that we have people in the human community that do go into crafts outside of our solar system already. We have astronauts,
Yes.
and right, and the Sasquatch actually have beings that look exactly like the Sasquatch on Earth, who are who have craft and leave the atmosphere and come and do things like any other space people. There's a researcher named Barbara Lamb, and Barbara Lamb, she's like a big crop circle lady, big ET lady, and she's a big big Sasquatch lady. When she went down to South America and started talking to the people who are in the contact community, she said that 50% of the people who get taken on a craft in South America say it was a Sasquatch craft and a Sasquatch crew that took them. And when you start talking about millions of people, it's not one craft, it's a fleets of craft in order to take
Yeah.
millions of people over a few years. Yeah. So
Wow.
I don't know what the relationship is with the people, with the Sasquatch who are walking around in the woods, but if their beings are identical genetically, then it would be like to be pretty close to what we are. So I would say that they are aliens, just like the second most, uh, um, the first most people seen on craft is energy beings, balls of light, or these beings that have robes, that the light is coming out of the robe. There's no body. It's just light coming out of this robe. That's the number one. And number two is human-like, just like us, right? So that's number one and number two. And Sasquatch are number six, the large hairy human types. So even in North America, even in Europe and North America, for the people who are awake and aware while they're on the craft, not everybody's awake and aware when they're on the craft, but the people who are awake and aware on the craft,
Yeah.
the sixth most cited type of ET is a Sasquatch type. So those are just data points that I've picked up along the way.
No, and again, I would agree with most all of that, because there's just so much out there, so much data. There's so many different it, encounters that people have had, so many different experiences that you cannot dismiss any of this, right? And so I'm 100% with you on that. And there's Robin.
I made it
just,
to.
I
Yeah.
just wanted to say, before we get on to Robin, and she can maybe, because you were talking about maybe some insight into your experience. But before you get in, I just wanted to add on to what Bean said. And this is Bean's story, but I'll relate it. So there was one guy that was taken on a craft, and he remembered it, right? And so he's walking along in this craft, and there's all kinds of this. It's a craft that has all kinds of different beings on it, probably humanoid type, probably like typical grays. Anyway, a big assortment of different types of beings on this craft. And all of a sudden he sees this big Sasquatch walk out, right?
Mhm.
And he had this preconditioned like prejudice towards them or whatever, or preconceived idea like, oh, that it was just like a big monkey or a big ape or some dumb animal or whatever, right? And so he asked the people on the craft, he said, what the heck is that Sasquatch doing on here? And they told him that's the most evolved being on this craft. That's the most evolved being on this craft. So
Wow.
that was just a little addition to what Beans was saying. So hey, Robin.
Hey, you.
So
How is it?
how are we?
Yeah.
We're all good. I just wanted to say that Rob was talking about his experience, and he talked to you, and he said he wanted to actually ask you or dig into some of your thoughts, more detail about the encounter. So did you want to talk to her, Rob?
Yeah, we can go for. I just had a few questions for Robin.
Yeah.
Since of course, I mentioned Robin, of course, about our mind speak that you had, or the telepathy. And I was telling these guys how my encounter story, and then I said, "You're on my show," and then you dropped that bomb, and I'm like, "Oh my God, I almost fell out of the chair." But before I got to tell you guys that at 3:15, I do have to cut it because I got to take my mom to the doctor. I didn't think we'd go over 2 hours, which is fine. Just want to let you know that I have to cut it in 12 minutes.
Okay,
So,
that's fine. So just briefly let Robin talk to you, and then we're going to ask you our question we ask every person. And
Okay.
by the way, go ahead, Robin. So what was your question for Robin?
So I wanted to ask Robin if there was any way, because remember several months ago you had said that the Delano, the name of the Sasquatch that I encountered in 2018, was trying to get in touch with me, and for the life of me, Robin, I need to figure out. I got to get together. I can't wait for you to get down here because I'd like to kind of. You had made mention that I'm not letting him in. And is there anything that I can do to maybe get the feeling or have this communication, or is this just something that only certain people can do? And if you've even contacted him since we last spoke.
He says he's waiting. He said it's difficult. He said you have a lot of anxiety over it. He understands it. He's hoping you're not as anxious now that you know what really happened.
Yes.
I think anybody can do the mind speak. I really believe that in my heart and soul. The only thing that really stops people is, and this isn't so much in your case, but in general, we've been taught by our government and everybody in the powers that be that we can't do these things. And that's just not true. We actually always could. We've been, programmed to believe that we cannot. And I think in your case, I think that you want to desperately do it, but there's still that little part of you that has so much anxiety about it. And that's what blocks you. And I think, and I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm getting. What I would suggest you do is maybe use a little energy work, earth work, to help you break that down. Like go outside, get barefoot, stand on the ground, or sit on the ground is even better because you can relax and just let yourself relax. Don't try so hard. You try so hard to be able to get it that stops you from getting it. It's a very natural process. And what my suggestion, Rob, to you would be is mind speak to him. Even if you're not getting anything and you're not picking up the signs, they hear you anyway. They're
Yeah.
fluent in it. So start there, start talking to him, and don't look for a sign. Don't look for words or anything like that. But if something comes to you, then you know it's legit. You know, you don't want to have it in your head. You're looking for this or you're looking for that, because then it blocks you and you don't get an accurate reading. But go outside, sit on the ground, pull that energy from the ground and let that calm you. And just, you know, kind of like a meditation type thing. You don't even have to really meditate as much as just be there and be present in that moment and stay relaxed. Talk to him. You know, keep in mind that mind speak is in a variety of reasons or variety of instances. It can be words, it can be letters, it can be pictures, it can be a movie playing, it could be a feeling, it can be a sense of knowing, a projection of emotion. And he said that he's pushed emotion on you before out of nowhere, but you weren't real sure where it was coming from. And that was coming from him. And
Yeah.
so I think, you know, I think you're very capable of doing it, and I think you will achieve it. I think that you want to do it really bad, but there's that, you know, you went through something very traumatic before you knew what had really happened. And I think that I'm going to hold this closer just because it's loud here. I think that you will eventually get there. You know, it's going to take time, but go down, sit on the ground, connect with the earth, pull that energy from it, and just clear your mind and just take a deep breath and relax. Talk to them in your mind, start breaking down that wall so that the communication starts, and you will start getting it. But everybody gets it differently. Some people get it in all ways.
Yeah.
So anything that isn't your own thought or your own feeling, your own emotion, and your own image or a word that pops into your head, that's from them.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's
Yeah.
so, my nose itches. It's so subtle. Sometimes it's very, very easy to miss.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the mind speak part is the one, like, everybody thinks, well, I'm not getting mind speak, so I'm not getting it. But it's thought placement. It's guiding you someplace where you end up and discover things that you don't know, or it's all the things
Like
that
coming
Robin
on the
talked
Pork
about.
and Bean show. I'm sure
Yeah.
the Sasquatch were,
Yeah.
or you know, whipping you with that.
Yeah.
That
So,
Feel the
yeah.
energy.
oh, the
So,
Pork and Bean
yeah.
show.
So I'm
Yeah.
sure that they're already doing it with you. You may not just recognize it because
And Rob,
And
So-
I also,
and I'll help work with you on it.
yeah, no, thank you. I'm going to, but I think you make a great point too, Robin. I think that I've been trying just too hard because I want to make this happen. So I'm like, I'm not letting it organically evolve. I'm kind of forcing the
Exactly.
issue.
And I tell you, the hardest thing for me, you know, years ago when they first told me that, you know, they wanted me to do certain things for them, it was before I started doing the work for them.
Yeah.
And I kept saying, okay, I'm ready, but tell me what you want me to do. And they would laugh at me and they're like, no, you're really not. And I'm like, yeah. Like, I'm not fearful. I'm not, you know, freaking out about it. Let's just do this. And they're like, no, we'll let you know when we think you're ready. And you have to remember, everything with them is a progression. It evolves continuously. It never ends. It never stops. It goes throughout the entire life that you have. And so when it's time, it's going to happen, but don't try so hard. And in the back of your mind, you have a little bit of anxiety still because of what went down.
Right.
And that's understandable. And so I think they're waiting to get rid of that last little bit of anxiety, and then things will become much clearer. And like I said, I will be back home next Thursday. I'm going to be gone the entire week because I'm helping run the conference, and then I'm speaking at it as well. But
Yep.
get hold of me and I'd be more than happy to help you.
No, I definitely plan on doing that because I think I just want to I want to get to that
I
level,
think
to
you're on
that
the right
stage.
path.
it's
I
not.
feel
Yeah, but don't think of it as a level. And it's
Yeah.
it's a competition or whatever, because then you start feeling bad and there's judgment and I'm not good
Yeah.
and all these things. It's not a level. You're already getting it. It's
Impression.
just
Okay.
Yeah, it's so subtle, Rob, that sometimes we just miss it. And I will be the first one to say that I'll get busy at home or doing whatever, or helping somebody, or, you know, doing this or doing that, and they'll get hold of me and I miss it because I'm
Yep.
so caught up in the things that I'm doing. And like right now, I've been working on this conference night and day. I'm working on the new cryptid genome project with Melba Ketchum,
Yep.
night and day. And plus my regular routine, plus the people I help, plus the shows I do. And it's like, I miss a lot. And there'll be times when they'll go to Pat and say, hey, tell the lady to pay attention. because my brain is so plugged because I'm working on all of these other things.
Yeah.
And so that happens, it happens to everybody. And if people tell you that it doesn't, they're lying to you, because it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, take those few minutes of quiet and pull that energy from the earth. And what happens is when you pull it, imagine it coming up from the earth, up through the bottom of your feet, up through your entire body. And it gives a sense of calming for you, and it kind of clears that path. So you might be able to detect more. You might be sitting there and you don't hear anything, but you feel an energy coming towards the back of you. That's one of them walking towards you.
Yes.
Like if you're in the
Hey,
house.
Robin, I have a question. I think this is an important question. Is like there's millions of people who are in contact with Sasquatch,
Yeah.
or that the Sasquatch look after. Could you give us your opinion on how connected we are to Sasquatch? Is it like once a week, or is it continuously, or
I think it happens frequently. I don't think it's connection 24/7. I think that would exhaust them, and they're probably sick of us at that point. But I think it's a lot. And when you have some that you've connected with, like Rob has with that one, I have with my group, then you have that constant watching and that constant connection. We need to realize we can connect with them at any time we want.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting at. It's not like you have to. You're not like you have to send them an email, and it's not.
No, never.
They're right there as soon as you think about it, right?
As you think about them, they're in there. That collective consciousness is where it all comes from. So you're automatically linked. It's almost like, okay, I'm going to turn on this button now so that, I can get hold of you. And if they're busy, you're not going to get a response any more than if we're busy, we're not responding to them. But you are connected. I mean, that collective consciousness is there. It's a matter of flipping that switch and saying, hey, guys, I'm trying to reach out to you.
Yeah. Okay. I guess you got to go pretty quick, right?
Yeah, I actually do. And I'm glad Robin came on for that.
Can we just ask you the one question that I'd like to delve more into this with Robin over there, but I would like to say, I think that like Robin would agree, but I want to make sure I have time to ask you that you were marked and that they've been watching you. And I'm sure that the reason he wants to connect with you is probably for one reason, is because they care about you and they want to help you to open you up to like kind of my relationship. They want to I'm getting energy when I said that. See, that's the way that they talk to me generally. One of the ways is I just got a big energy confirmation when I said that. So, but anyway, but
if I interject real fast, Brian, and then I promise I'll shut up. I have a message for him. That's why I'm interrupting.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well, go.
He wants Rob to know that he's trying to make that connection with them because he wants him to realize that what happened was not done with intent to harm.
Right.
And he doesn't want Rob to fear him. And he hopes that they can be brothers at some point, or at the very least that you can become close with their people. And so that's why he has connected with you and he stays around you. He said if he's not around you, that he does have others that will check in on you at times.
Yeah. And you know what, Rob? That kind of connection with them is the most enriching, beautiful connection you could ever have. It is just so beautiful, and you're already partway there, and you're going to get all the way there. So that's exciting. So let me just ask you. Let me just ask you before we leave the one question we ask all of our guests. So how has your interest or your relationship, which I think you have more than you even realize, with Sasquatch changed your life? How has it changed your life since, that encounter to where you are now?
Well, it's changed me in many ways, but I think the most important way that I've been changed is now that starting the channel, the Bigfoot Mr. Rob channel, right, along with Tex also on his job, is I feel it's my duty to listen to people that, as I explained earlier, where I had nowhere to go. It's made me more open to what's going on in the world, and it makes me open and empathize with the people that have had experiences that they can't explain. I think that for people that have nowhere to go, much like I was, you can have a safe place to come and help these people get through these times of need, much like was afforded me when they first happened to me. So I think I'm here today. It's changed my life just to help the people not maybe solve what's going on, but guide them and let them know that they're not being judged.
Yeah.
And they're not being criticized or condemned because I've been there.
Yeah.
And so that's the purpose that I serve today, I think.
Have the Sasquatch worked on your heart? Do you feel you're more heart-centered?
I'll be honest with you. When it comes to me, I've always been one for the people. I'm always a generous, loving, caring guy. That's never changed. Probably it's been brought further. It's probably further grown,
Yeah.
right? But I've always
Yeah.
been this way. I've always loved and cared for people, even strangers. I would talk to strangers, ask them how they're doing in the store when I was 10 years old, 15,
Yeah.
20.
Yeah.
And like I said, when I got rid of my business, I felt bad for everybody. I paid them a year's salary. I didn't have to do that just because I love people, and I don't want to see anybody go without, and I certainly don't want to see anybody go without thinking that they're alone when it comes to having these experiences.
Yeah. I'm very much
My
like
last,
you.
I have a question too. Go ahead, Brian. I
I
didn't
said,
know.
okay, and then you ask her, I'm very much like you too, but I think that my relationship with them has enhanced that.
Yep.
And made me understand the connection of people and everything more. So go ahead, Beans.
I wanted to ask you about your chair. Is that a gamer chair? And if and how much did you pay for it? Because I need a new
Well,
chair.
yeah, this actually is a gamer chair, and well, here's the thing: you can get it on Amazon $120, but I
What?
got it 120. Yeah, Amazon. However, this gaming chair is a friend of mine's kids who no longer uses it, and it's brand new, and I gave him $50.
Oh man!
And it's the most comfortable chair.
Look, I bought this thing at Office Depot, and I think I paid $200 for it. And it's already worn out. It's
Well,
2 years.
no,
Mine's in rags.
no, this same chair is 120 on
This is my
Amazon.
armrest.
Oh God! But that's
Amazon.
yeah, Amazon 120. I seen it, same chair, brand new. So, but yeah, I wish I could stay longer. I had to do this other thing, but
let me just close the show up. First of all, thank you, Robin, for you are always come through for us when we ask you to come on. Like you're just the best.
I love you guys.
Yeah. And thank you, Rob, so much. And let's stay in touch and
we will
share some more stories and stuff and whatever. And like we're kind of like buddies now, especially with the hockey connection.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah,
Stevie Wonder, and I'm not talking about the musician. I mean the musician.
I got you.
Okay. Yep. Hey, so everybody, on behalf of Port Cunningham and the world's handsomest man, Frank Oliver Beans, this has been the Pork and Beans Show. Thanks, Robin, for stopping in. Like I said, thank you, Rob.
I got a question for Robin. If you
wait a minute. Okay, go ahead. Or Robin can stay for a few minutes if you want.
Yeah, well, you're closing the show, so that's why I want to get it in there before you push the button.
Well, but Rob can go, and then we can talk.
I gotta run.
Yeah. Bye, Rob.
Yeah,
bye,
thanks for having me on. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Great guest, great stuff.
All right, bye-bye.
Awesome.
Thank you, Rob.
Thanks.
Yeah, go ahead. Now you got the lady all to yourself.
So, Robin, I just was listening to Melba Ketchum, and I thought that was my world changed listening to her.
I'm telling you,
when she went into, she actually disclosed on that guy David Scott's show, right?
Yeah.
She disclosed that the mitochondrial DNA of the dog man was human.
Yes.
Now, so you might have been sitting with this for a few months, right? But now you got the Sasquatch with mitochondrial DNA as human, humans with mitochondrial DNA as humans, and dogman with mitochondrial DNA as humans. This pretty much changes the whole topography of the cryptid world.
Well, here's the thing, Mike. Back before I met her, the Sasquatch had told me what they were. And then I asked the dogmen, and they told me what they were. So I felt pretty certain that I was, getting the information correct. But it's nice when you have a scientist, a specialist that does DNA, an expert in DNA of someone of Melba's caliber that can confirm it, So it's always been pretty cool. I mean, I think we're going to find, and this is my own opinion, this is not Melba, this is me. I think we're going to find with any of the cryptids, you're going to find a human linkage in there. I will be very surprised if we don't.
Well, the ones that look like
Yeah,
look like
like-
human.
Why is that? Why would that
'Cause I don't think
be?
an octopus, would have
No.
human.
Why,
like that.
why would the human DNA, I'm not, and I agree with you, but I'm just asking you, why would the human DNA be part of all these different cryptids? What's the
Because it's
connection?
they all are genetically made. They're genetically modified. They're created. And it seems to be a pattern with the bipedal ones that they've used the human DNA in there. I mean, everybody has theories on where they came, how that happened. But regardless if it's government created, ET created, a natural creation on this planet, whatever, it's all seems to be coming from a human lineage of some sort. We don't understand how, we don't understand why, but it's happening. And like Melba and I had gotten hold of both Duke Sullivan and Dave Scott about this. When Melba finally felt she was ready to do Stephen Hill just said the show went off. When Melba said she was finally ready.
No, it didn't. We're still on.
Okay, good. That she would consider doing an interview. And you have to understand, I've been on her for the last 3 or 4 years to get on these shows. And she didn't want to because of all the hatred at her. And so I told her, I said, if I find you a safe place to go, would you consider it? And she said, well, maybe. So I've been on her for several years now to do it. And so I've got her on World Bigfoot Radio. She did last Sunday. She's doing this Sunday. And then a following Sunday, it'll be a 3-parter. So, I encourage people to go on World Bigfoot Radio. Part 1 was released last Sunday, and we've got part 2 this coming. And then Dave Scott, another treasured friend, as well as Duke Sullivan. And I called Dave, and Dave was so kind. And he's like, whatever you need me to do, let's do this. And so she agreed to do it. And I was so proud of her because she, spoke from her heart. A lot of misinformation that had been put out there was put out. And she did do the teaser on the Dogman study. Now they have the results in on that, and they pulled a genome, and we're working on more genomes. I say we, but I don't do anything scientific. I do paperwork. That's what I do. I connect people. I do the emails. I do the scheduling.
Well, I mean, that pretty much points to us as not being the probability of us being the parental part is really slim now, because that means we are actually in the same category as 2 other hybrids. So we're hybrid. We're also hybrids, and that therefore we do not know where our parental DNA comes from or our mother DNA comes from.
Yeah. And people that watch the show, I saw in the comments, and another thing that I was absolutely thrilled by was we didn't get a bunch of haters in the comments. Like when the study came out the first time, it was just a full-blown attack. Melba had death threats. I had death threats. They ruined her life. They tried to ruin my life. It was just, and the submitters, we were not the only ones that got attacked. Everybody did. And it ended badly, of course. This time it's a whole different ballgame. It's a whole new time.
Beautiful.
And the support we are getting, and for anybody that wants to donate, the more we pull in, the more cryptids we're going to do. So anybody that wants to donate, go to Dr. Melba Ketchum on her wall or on my wall on Facebook, and the GoFundMe is there. Please donate. The more money we bring in, the more cryptids we plan on doing. She wants to expand it. Any cryptid that we can get the DNA on, we're going to test.
Well, that guy Steve Isdall from How to Hunt, he was pushing the donation, and a lot of people turned out because of his.
Yes.
He reached a couple 100,000 people on every show.
So we cannot thank him enough from the bottom of our hearts and souls, because he has helped tremendously. And the support that we've gotten from him, from the general public, donations wise, we've passed the goal we started, which means that our new goal is the more we bring in, the more cryptids we're testing. And we're actively looking for samples. If they're a good sample, let's get it in there. So, anybody can either contact Melba or they can contact myself, and we're going to keep pushing it. But yeah, she's got the Dogman samples tested. The 1 genome, I believe, is done, and she's working on the second one. So there's a lot that's going to be coming out for people that do donate as a little incentive. You will get an email from me and the cryptid team with a special email for you to email your preferred email to. And that email that you send to that email that I send to you is kind of like your golden ticket, because you will get updates before it hits the public. You will get an NDA that you can sign. So you will know firsthand information before the general public does.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yeah.
So let me
So-
ask you, Robin. Melba's had a lot of personal experiences herself, hasn't she?
Oh,
Oh,
absolutely.
man.
Yeah,
Do you
Oh
think-
absolutely.
man.
What
You
do
should,
you
you
think
should
of-
hear that. You should hear her show. It was
What do
amazing.
you think of the idea of having her on our show? Could you ask her?
I don't know if I can ask her whether or not she will do it. I don't know. And the reason I say that has nothing to do with you guys. She didn't want to do shows to begin with. She wanted to do simply radio because she doesn't want to be seen, because it's a safety risk for her. People actively try to kill her over this. And she can't, when the studies are out, she can't go to the store. She can't go anywhere because people see what she looks like. So that was the only reason why she wanted to do radio. Now she did, if you notice on both Dave Scott's and on Duke Sullivan's show, she was not visual
Well, she
because
doesn't
of
have
that.
to be visual here. We could
Yeah.
just not.
I mean, I will absolutely talk to her about it, Brian. If she does any more, I will absolutely tell her, because I think you guys are a safe place as well. She won't be talking about woo, and not that she doesn't know about it. The thing on that is right now.
Well, that's kind of what we would like to
Yeah,
talk.
she, no, Brian, don't even bother with it, because you got to respect where she's at. First of
Okay.
all, she knows as much or more woo than we do, because she's got this stuff going on around her house, and she doesn't need to prove anything on that. She needs to prove the actual scientific data.
And that's why she's not
Yeah.
doing it. Dave did ask her about it last night, and I talked to him
Well-
prior to the show, and I was like, "It's nothing against it. Does she not know it? Of course she knows it. She's,
Okay.
she's into this."
No,
But
I
to get
respect
the
and
sci-
understand that.
Yeah, in order to get a scientific study to fly, she's got to stick to the science, and there's nobody better than her. I don't care what anybody says. As soon as she opens her mouth, the credibility is there. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, and it's so funny because I talk to her every day, sometimes several times a day. She's like family to me. I will follow that woman from here to hell and back. Not anything to do with the dogman or the Bigfoot, but just because of her as a person and a human being. But we'll get talking and we'll have these in-depth discussions, and I'll be, all right, I need science for dummies here. Like you're going to
Yeah.
have to re-explain this in dumber terms, because this is what I can't do. I can get
Yeah.
samples, I can tell her whatever I need to, and she sends a lot of people my way that, need help with things. But scientists, that's not me. I wish it was, I'm kind of on the other end. But yeah, I mean,
I can understand. I can
If
understand that.
Goatman, or if a Goatman and Mothman and a couple of these other cryptid types, if they show up with female mitochondrial DNA, that's pretty
will
much
be-
going to change. That's going to change history, change the world.
It
You
is.
know what I mean?
well, and a thing too that we noticed on the show last night was several people in chat kept saying, "Oh, wow, so they're actually breeding with our females." That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is in the genomes, in the mitochondrial side, is human DNA at some point. As time goes on, it might be bred out more, but I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but what I can say is, no, we're not saying that they're out in the woods and they're doing the dirty with one of our females. That's not it at all. But the genomes and the mitochondrial DNA are showing a human lineage in there. And personally, and this isn't from Melba, this is myself, the cryptids that I work with, I'm telling you right now, especially the ones that go bipedal, I will be surprised if we don't go down that gene pool and find it in all of them to some
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
I mean, some of them know, but I think a lot of them, it's
She
like
said she said another kind of groundbreaking, world-changing kind of a thing too. This guy,
Dave Scott.
Asker, Dave Scott asked her, can we clone humans? And she said, yes, we absolutely can, and we are doing it.
time.
So that to have a genetic scientist actually say we are actually actively engaged and we can do it, that's a big shift in paradigm there.
Yeah.
That means they're already doing it. They've done it for 30 years.
Yeah, Mike, they've been doing it for decades. And the thing of it is just because someone, whether it's Melba, myself, you, Brian, whatever, just because we don't put information out doesn't mean we don't know it. And, certain things can be brought out at certain times. And I think in her case, the time is now, and for the naysayers and the people, You know what? When she did it the first time, she did what nobody else did. And she got 3 genomes. Nobody's ever done that before. And since then, after all the haters came out and said, oh, we'll have somebody else do it. We'll have somebody else do it. Where is it? Bring that. I'm not seeing it. You know, anybody that's had any of the tests done and the DNA on the Sasquatch have come back and, well, there's human in it, and they drop it.
Right.
We've never pulled genomes. Nobody has pulled genomes that I am aware of. I'm not saying that you know, I know it all, because I clearly don't. But if they have, they haven't made a splash with it. It's been all these years. If everybody could do it, if it was so easy, if she was so bad, then why in the hell didn't anybody do it? Because they have it. And she's back. She's better than she was before because she's got more experience at it. And I don't think she was ever naive going into it, but she didn't. And Mike, I'm sure you saw this on Dave's show. She didn't go into this because she woke up one day and said, let's do this study. People brought a species identification to her, not knowing what it was. And she assumed it was going to be some animal running around in the woods, and it wasn't. And that's how the whole thing started. And this is where it turned up at. But so this time she knows going into it what she's looking for. And like I said, all the naysayers that go on there and say, oh, she did this wrong. You know, I had a lady tell me, well, the paper was a disaster. She did this, she did that. Now, the whole truth has never been released before. There was nothing wrong with the paper. The government shut it down through every single publication that was tried. I was on the inside of that. I know for a fact how solid it was. And they,
And that,
you know,
that paper, which is something else that she said, that paper that is actually already published, the one that everybody talks
yeah,
about,
and anybody
that
can
was
get,
supposed to be the teaser for the next paper, because the next paper was going to go into the full story,
yeah,
which I think she's working on too. So you gotta have to put all this in context, because usually when people write papers, they don't usually just write one. They'll
yeah.
write 3 or 4, sometimes 6 over the same topic, and just kind of because it's so much
Well,
data.
and when she was getting Sasquatch samples in, people would send them in, and she was like, okay, this isn't a Sasquatch. You know, this is now Dogman. So now we're crossing over. But if anybody that wants to read that first paper, go to sasquatchgenomeproject.org. It's still up. You can get a free copy of the paper. You can go in there and you can see the diagrams in the DNA. You know, Matilda's picture's on there. I think the video of her sleeping is on there. And,
Can you
you know,
can you put that link in my messenger, and I'll add that to the video.
yeah, I will do that while I'm talking to you. Hang on 1 second. See if I can, hang on, give me a second.
Yeah.
And I will do it right now.
Yeah. When I edit the video, I'll put that in. Oh, I see you. I see you. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, and you can go right to it. I encourage people to go to it. You know, we've got photos, a lot of good structures, stick structures in there. The tree drawings that they left me in Michigan are in there. Some of the structures that I got, as well as countless others, were in there. The braids from my pony, as well as other people's pony or horses, were in there. But the entire paper is in there.
Okay.
I strongly encourage people to go do it. Like I said,
I'll put that in the I'll put that in the group too, in the Pork and Bean show.
Yeah, and she's got 2 more episodes on Duke Sullivan's World Bigfoot Radio, and that will be this coming Sunday, 9 p.m. Eastern, and also the following Sunday. For anybody that hasn't watched the first part or Dave Scott show, I encourage everybody to. It's an eye opener. And, you know, she not only talks about the science, of course, but she talks a little bit more about, you know, what went on. You know, the whole truth still hasn't come out as far as what went on behind the scenes. And the sad thing is at the time, it didn't need to, because it was supposed to be about the science. And unfortunately, in the world, it was never about the science. No. If she would have come back and said, oh, yeah, they're an animal in the woods, everybody would have rejoiced. It would have been wonderful. But you can't lie. The DNA doesn't lie. And it came back part human. It is what it is. You can't change it. And the truth is, I don't want to. You know, it's not that I wanted them to be anything or that she wanted them to be any certain thing. We just wanted the truth. And the truth was what everybody asked for years. They just couldn't handle it. So we're really hopeful that this time around, people, I think, have had more contact. The Sasquatch, of course, work as a collective, and they've included a lot more people now. And I think, and I feel like everybody's minds are a little bit more open this time. Are we going to get haters? We always get haters, but it doesn't matter. You know, it
Yeah.
is the truth. And the more funds we raise is the more cryptids we're going to test.
Yeah.
You
The
know,
haters don't, the haters don't, I know they don't get to you, really. They don't get to me. I couldn't care less.
yeah, you know, the death
Doesn't,
threats are a little concerning, you know, having things that are not human show up on my porch and threaten me were a little confusing, but you know, it is what it is. You know, you
Yeah.
move forward. The truth is there. And for the people that don't agree with it, the people don't like it, fine, walk away. Nobody's forcing you to listen to it. Nobody's forcing you to read it. I don't understand the hate. It's the only thing I don't understand. It's like, if you don't agree with it, you just walk the other way. I don't agree with a lot of things in this world, but I don't sit there and protest and tear everybody apart and, you know, death threat people. That's crazy. But I think if she were treated a little bit kinder, people would be amazed at how much information would be released, because a lot of information got held back when all the haters came out, because at that point it was a matter of why release anymore? They're not even listening to this.
yeah.
You know, if you treat somebody with kindness, you'd be amazed how much info would come out.
Yeah.
But again, you know, watch Dave Scott's show, go on World Bigfoot Radio last Sunday, and then the next 2 Sundays, because it is definitely a game changer.
I will check them out. Check them out. Yeah.
Is Duke with you over there in Nebraska?
He will be in when I get there. He'll be there. He should be there shortly, sometime today. And I'm still in South Carolina. I'm in the airport in South Carolina. I got to go into Dallas, Fort Worth, and then I'll go from there to Nebraska. And Stephen Hill and William Lunsford will come in tomorrow. And then Friday is the conference and Saturday is the conference. And then everybody will leave except me on Sunday. And I will
Stephen
be
Hill
there.
says hello to everyone. He's on our show.
Oh, I love Stephen. We have got such great people speaking in Nebraska. Next year, Blaine Tyler's going to be there, who is beyond incredible. Dave Scott is going to be there next year.
Wow.
How about Port Cunningham?
I know we're going to start getting people from.
Then you really have something. I'm just joking.
No, the reason why I was asking this is I think you ought to do a maybe you and Duke get together and do a
alive.
Yeah, a live with one of the Pork and Bean shows, just to kind of talk about the event, because I think it's a special event out there.
We might be able. I know Friday and Saturday we can't. He's going to be doing something Thursday, maybe Thursday night when they get back. I'll find out.
Well, it could be a few days after you get back and settle in, but it's still, so you,
Yeah,
as long as it's,
we can get on there.
huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Who? Duke and Robin?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can
That'd be
get.
cool.
They're the stars of the show, as far as I can see. There's a couple other people who are.
Yeah, we'll be there. And it's funny because Harriet doesn't usually let anybody talk more than, one time. You don't come the next year, but we brought Duke back again this year. This is my 3rd year speaking there. And I had not planned on speaking this year, but I had so many people contact me about speaking. So Harriet McFeely, who owns it, said, forget it. You're going to be there. So you're going to go. So I'm speaking again this year.
Well,
I did the schedule, so I put myself last. So
you're the exception to the rule.
Apparently, but we'll see how long that happens. But yeah, she made me assistant manager for the conference in the museum. So last year,
Deborah Klein says yes, live with Duke from Nebraska. See how
Hey,
it goes.
if you want to contact us, like even a couple hours before, we'll just go live, like right on the last minute or whatever. Yeah, if you want to.
We can. Let me find out what everybody's schedule is going to be. I know tomorrow they're going to go to Rich Souls because they're going to go do some researching with him. I'm not going to be able to go because I'll be working for the conference, and the museum has a grand opening tomorrow, so I won't be part of that. But I will find out what time they're going to get back, because if they get back at a decent time, I say do it tomorrow night. So
let's do it.
I'll be in touch with you guys and let you know, and we can go from there.
I'll just keep my hockey game on record and watch it later. That's how much I think of it. The playoffs, for Pete's sake.
I used to love hockey. My half brother used to play for Sudbury in Canada.
I love hockey. Well, I'm Canadian, of course I do.
I
Hey, so I just wanted to ask you, because Beans is waving, so it looks like he wants to get going. But we are your favorite show, right, Robin?
You are one of them.
What a pitch, man.
Wait a minute. Now we're one of them. Last time you always said we were. Now we're just one of them.
I have to be fair.
Yeah,
So-
but have you subscribed to the channel? That's the thing.
Of course. Immediately.
Okay.
Immediately.
So we're one of a few.
You guys are one of my top ones. You know,
Just that Robin's so overflowing with love. She just loves
I
everybody.
do. I love everybody. I'm a people person. I don't like hate. I only like, I love
Yeah.
people.
And as soon as she gets off the podcast and talks to Duke because of his show and the other, I just said that. I don't really like them.
No, I love Duke. Duke is like a brother to me. He is. He's like a brother to me. We get along great. And he was the one that introduced me to Dave. And Dave is just incredible. He's so good to me. And so, yeah. And those are my guys. And you guys, like I said, I've got some that aren't just shows to me. And you guys are one of them. You know,
Oh,
I think if you did Duke's DNA, he'd be like half human and half
and have
dwarf.
Sasquatch.
Half
No,
dwarf.
yeah, because he's got this kind of dwarf little laugh kind of thing going on.
But you know what? He's so tall. Like he's really, really tall.
Really? I did not know
he
that.
really does. He's
Like how tall is he?
Oh God, he's well over 6 foot. And I mean, he's got to be six. I want to say 6'2", maybe 6'3". I don't know. He's tall. And
Okay, so he's half Sasquatch.
Yeah, he looks like a little guy.
yeah,
He looks
that's
like he a little.
yeah, because he's sitting in a chair behind a table and a mic. Wait till you stand next to him and you're looking at him like that. But last year when we were at Harriet's, him and Christy Sci-Fi were outside having a cigarette, and Pat and I were in our room, and a Sasquatch walked right by the window. Like I'm walking by it, and I looked at Pat and I said, "Was that Duke?" And he said, "What?" And I said, "I don't think that was Duke. There was no clothing. It was just shaggy black hair." I said, "But it's about Duke size." So, and I went outside, and they were down there at the other end of the house. They didn't even know what was going on. People don't think Nebraska gets Sasquatch in it, and it's so comical because parts of it, there's hills and the valleys and stuff. So obviously they're there, but parts of Nebraska are completely flat, and they're there. They go everywhere. They don't care. They adapt.
Yeah, all I need is a creek.
Yeah. Yep. When I was there last year, somebody had seen one walking along the creek not far from her house.
So Bob Dylan calls it a crick.
I know.
The crick.
The creek.
The crick. Probably has some other funny words too, but
Yeah. Bob's a good guy.
oh, he's one of the, yeah, he really is. He's a genuine, that's the thing, and I know we got to go. That's the thing about people reading people or whatever, and energy, whatever. You could just tell, not that we question it, but some people, you could just tell Bob's authenticity just from talking to him. Like he's so genuine, right? So.
And the other thing that's nice about this project it's Sasquatch approved. Like they were the ones that told me to find Melba. That's how I met her. I never knew anything about her. I never knew about the Sasquatch genome study. They were the ones that told me to find her, that I needed to help her. And that's how I met her. And we've been family ever since. But last night, and then it did the same thing when she did Duke's show. They were outside the house squealing and hollering, and it was like Mardi Gras out there. I mean, they were happy. And it was funny because when I did the cryptid corner after Melba was on Dave Scott's show last night, I always go outside because it's late at night. I don't want to wake anybody in my house up. And I'm sitting out there. They were shaking the bushes and squealing and jumping around and carrying on. And they finally settled down. And all of a sudden I'm standing there and I hear one burping over in the bushes. I'm so glad that wasn't picked up on air. You can hear these giant belches. It was hysterical. But they're very much in support of it. They were the ones that led me there to begin with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it turns out she's got them right around her house. So
she always has.
Yeah, that's probably one of those destiny things. They've probably been watching her since she's 3 years old.
They wanted this done. This is, she's doing the project, but this is their project too.
Absolutely.
If you guys know me, if this is something that they didn't want done, there is no way in this world or any other world I would do it. I wouldn't.
Didn't she say about the Sasquatch genome that she had like 500 samples that she started with?
No, there was, when she started, but they narrowed it down, I think, to like 133 or something like that.
Yeah, and then a lot of them were raccoons and bears got
a lot of them got eliminated. There was 100, I believe, don't quote me, but I believe it was 133 samples that made it into the paper. There was flesh, hair, a toenail, urine, blood, saliva, and it, like I said, go on the site. I mean, it has all that information there and more, and it's just incredible. I think a lot of these people that complain about it and say bad things about it have never actually read it. And I think they were so outraged at the results and that a woman came out of nowhere with it that they never went any further. They, I think that was it.
we talk about how there's a Sasquatch and an ET connection. And whenever there was a study done in 2017 that was published of about the ETs, and that was like a huge study, worldwide study. And then that's in 2017, and in that same year, that's when the New York Times was forced to come out with the TikTok thing in the New York Times, right? To say that their aliens are here, and then Trump came out, I think 2018, I think, and said that we have a space force, right?
Yeah.
So, but this is the same kind of things. But what I'm saying is the pressure that was put on her is equal to the pressure that's put on people who are, if somebody did a DNA study on aliens, they would get the same kind of blowback from the government that Melba got. So think of aliens and Sasquatches in the same category because they actually are in the same category.
Yeah, they are. And I think, the first study is, maybe that was just a soft disclosure to what's going to be coming out. And she's not opposed to doing more Sasquatch DNA. It's just that that's not the solid focus this time. If there's some really good, samples, then I'm sure that will be brought in. But now we've progressed. Everything is a progression. And now we're into the dogman, and we're after any samples of any cryptid.
I've always said and thought, I want your opinion on this or what you know. I've always thought that, how aware is the government or the powers that be or the handler, whoever you want to call them, of the alien message and the Sasquatch message? That's about our connection and all together. And if they are aware of it, how much are they trying to suppress it? Is that part of why things are being suppressed? Because they have a message for us to wake us up?
I think there's a possibility. To say whether it is for sure, I don't know. I think a lot of it goes back with the ETs, goes back to the treaties that were signed back in Eisenhower's time and even before that, and in all honesty, we have stolen so much technology from the ETs. So at this point now, they're going to have to come clean with a lot of lies that they've told for a long time. And that isn't even really the main reasons, I think. I think there's a lot more sinister reasons in there, but that's one of them, one of many.
Well, but let's face it, if they were aware of it, they would not want to know like the stuff that my Sasquatch are teaching me or whatever, because that takes away your fear and that takes away that takes away their control. So they would not be on board with that.
Yeah, they don't want
the Sasquatch are famous for not having a government, and the ET people are very famous for not having a government or a cash economy. So that takes all the power structure of the entire earth and just discounts it to like not needed. And that not needed is when those guys get their fangs out. The vampires get their fangs out because that's the truth is we don't need them.
Yeah. And they do have their own laws. They have their own rules, but that's different than having a government.
Yeah.
They have a hierarchy in the clan and that type of thing. But again,
they have like a councils or wise men or whatever. It's not the.
Yeah. But the other thing is our system is all built upon judgment and whatever.
It is. It's
and they're not the Sasquatch aren't about judgment and status and all that stuff like we are. And so, it would completely destroy our system. So can I ask you one more thing?
Yeah.
And I know it's probably going to be a long question, so I don't want to keep you, but I'm just the Justin Smedja thing. Was that legitimate?
Was what?
Is that legitimate? Justin Smedja, did he actually kill some?
Yeah, he did. He actually did. And the flesh that's in that study is part of that.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did try to retrieve the sample back from her, and she still has it, to my knowledge. And I don't think anything's changed since the last time we talked about it, which was back by the study. But he absolutely did. And the Sasquatch.
Do you know the story behind it? Do you know the story behind it? Because first of all, let me just say one thing. The Sasquatch have told me not to judge people or whatever, and I know he just isn't on that level of respect or whatever. But I have a real hard time respecting that guy, and I really
Yeah, I
It,
can't either.
it gets
I
me
can't
really,
either.
really mad. Really,
Yeah,
really mad. And
the Sasquatch told me the story of what went on. They showed me visions of what happened, and
can you
that's
tell us?
something
Can you tell
I
us
would
about
do
it?
that privately. I don't want to do that on
Okay.
air, just because of liabilities, and I don't, that kind of thing. I don't
Okay.
want anybody
Okay. I
coming at
understand. I
me,
understand.
but privately, I'd be more than happy to.
But can I ask you one thing? Was one detail, was he pretending to be like have a connection with them, and then he like feeding them or whatever, and then he betrays them? Did that
From
happen?
what my understanding is, he was putting food out for them. And I did see a show that he did with his friend where they said, they were coming around the corner and they already had their guns out. Now, whether or not that's true, I don't know. That's what they said. Those weren't my words. That was theirs. But he did kill a male and he killed a child. And that child that he killed was a twin.
Oh,
And, the thing is the Sasquatch believe in an eye for an eye. They don't forget. And where they're not going to go and kill any of his children or anything like that, they will play head games, and it transfers. It goes right down your lineage. I mean, they're not going to let this go. He probably won't ever think anything more about it. And there was another one, I think, that got injured that I don't think that anybody ever realized got injured. And the only reason I knew it got injured was because the Foots told me. I don't think he was aiming for it. I think it was just, when the other ones were getting fired at, it happened in the middle of that.
yeah. That's the one thing that I have a hard time not judging, because I have such a love for them, and such beautiful people. I really have a hard time forgiving somebody like that. But I know you kind of have to. It'll just take care of itself, I guess.
I don't have a hatred. I feel disgust towards him. I feel pity for him.
Yeah.
But I have to let that go because that's their fight with him, not mine. And
yeah,
and excuse my language, but karma's a bitch and it always comes back. She does
not
not
only
forget.
not only that, it takes you to that low vibration of judgment
Yeah,
and hatred and all that. And we got to get out of that. But it's really, that's a real test.
I don't wish him any harm. I don't hate him. I wasn't in that situation that he was, but I feel repulsed by it. I think it was a situation, in my own opinion, and from what the Sasquatch have told me, that he created. I don't think it was an accident in the least. And whether he'll ever admit that or not, I don't know. I've never spoken to the man. I don't know him in any way, shape, or form. I've never spoke to anybody about him. So I'm just going by what they've shared with me.
Let me ask you something, though, because we all know that they know your intentions.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them do before you do something. They can read your mind. They can read your, like the guru guy that Beans was talking about. They can look at you and they know your whole life from birth to death and everything in between.
Yeah.
How do you think that they allowed that situation to happen?
Well, he was coming in a car or in his truck when it all went down, and there was food out there. The only thing I ever saw him say was, we came around a corner and there they were. But there's a lot more to that story other than there they were. He was coming in a vehicle. They could have been out in that field or wherever they were, and it just the perfect timing. I mean, they get spotted all the time because people are coming down the road in vehicles and they're right on top of them before they get out of there. I mean, it could have been a number of ways. It wasn't like he was out, hunting and they were following him around. They would have, if that was the case, we wouldn't have the situation that happened. And then you have to look at it that not all clans use all their abilities, but they can all read intent. They could have just been out there, living their lives. And as he came around that corner, it was just the perfect storm.
The other thing is that they always keep close tabs of the people they're connected with. Like I've always said, they know what I'm going to do before I do it and whatever.
They know what I'm doing.
But yeah. I mean, and like because of the time thing. But if they weren't maybe connected to a certain individual, they're not going to keep tabs on everybody and their intent or whatever. Just the people that they're with. So
they have better things to do in their lives than keep an eye on us 24/7. If it's a purpose for them, if there's a need for it, they're going to. But that doesn't mean that collectively, if you call on them, they can't answer. Now, if they're busy, if they're doing things, I mean, believe it or not, they have things and obligations in their world as well. If they are in a situation where they can respond, they generally do.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go, you guys. I love you dearly, but I have a flight to catch.
So let me know
I will
about
when I
tomorrow messages,
Yeah,
and
I will.
if you want to do an impromptu live thing with Duke, we'll
Absolutely.
do it.
Yeah.
Hey, Robin, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, I love you guys anytime. You know that.
The beacon of light for the Sasquatch
By the
community.
way, your hair looks great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You know what? I went to get it trimmed because it was so long. It was giving me a headache. And they did what I wanted, but they did it too short. But I actually like it, so I'm going to keep it. Other than it keeps flopping on my one side, so I can't
There you
see.
go.
But thank you.
Well, I mentioned that because somebody mentioned that on the last show you were on, and I agree. It does look really. It looks nice
Thank you.
and
I have naturally,
buoyant.
yeah, I have
Buoyant, is
naturally
that a
curly
word?
hair. And when all that weight got cut off of it, it went pink, and the
Yeah,
curls are back. So
that
it
suits
works.
you. Now we got to get Mr. Beans like that.
I know. I'm going to style his hair. It's going to be awesome. We can do each other's hair, braid, whatever.
Well, you got to be careful because he is the world's handsomest man. He's very particular about.
In all fairness, it's all I can do to control myself through the phone.
Oh, man.
I mean,
It's a
thank
burden.
God
It's,
when I
it's
met
a
him,
burden.
thank God when I met him in person, Pat was with me. That's all I'm going to say.
Otherwise, you'd have a stalker, Mr. Beans.
I tell you what, though, Mike was one of the kindest human beings I ever met. He had contacted me. I hadn't done a conference. You know, I did Siberia, and then I did a couple little tiny ones in Michigan, and I went back in the woods. And the conference that I met Mike at was kind of like my coming out conference of, do I really want to do this again? And I only went there because the Sasquatch had said they wanted me to do it and put out information. And he contacted me out of nowhere and said, do you care if I come over and interview you? He was the most dearest, treasured person I ever met. I felt such a connection and such love for him. And I thought if I was ever going to get back into this arena again, I was so grateful that it was through him. Because, you know, before, when I decided enough was enough, I had people that were going to bash my skull in so my brains would go out on the ground, so that way they could come in and catch the Sasquatch when the Sasquatch came in to help me. And it was enough. And I just said, forget it. I'm back out in the woods by myself, you know. And then I met John Stamey, who is incredible. He's, I consider him family as well. And he wanted me to go there. And I was really had a lot of anxiety about it. And I thought, we'll see. And then I met Mike. And after that, and bless his heart, I spoke twice that day. And the second time, he was in the front row. There wasn't very many people because it was at the end of the day. And I went to go talk. And I don't know if anybody's ever been around when the Sasquatch hijack your brain and just kind of take over, and they start making you say things that you had not planned on saying. And they are just spewing out all this information, none of which I had planned on saying. And I'm standing there, not able to stop it. And I got done and I walked up to Mike, and Mike said, I knew the exact time they took over. He said, you got hijacked.
That's cool. Well, it's good to have good friends, right? We're all good friends here.
Always surround yourself with the ones that you love and that love you back.
Yeah, and you have been so kind. You've never, every time I've reached out to you, Robbie, you never unless you're working or something, but you've always been kind. Appreciate that.
I think the world of you guys. I love you. And if I can help in any way, you know I'm there for you at all times.
Yeah.
Push the button, Brian. It's 3:59.
Okay, everybody.
Bye.
I already did the closing thing, didn't I? So anyway,
Yeah,
thanks,
yeah,
thanks
yeah. We
everybody.
fumbled
Thanks everybody
through.
for joining the Pork and Beans show today. And we'll see you. We got a lot of shows coming up. I'm 10 shows ahead of the game.
Remember, only you can subscribe to the
Do
Pork
you
and
realize
Beans
that I've
show.
got 10 shows lined up?
You're good. Let me know.
I've never.
I'll send them your way.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, we got 3 of the guys that William. Well, Stephen King. I almost said Stephen King. Stephen Hill.
Yeah.
Was one of them, and we got William Lunsford and one
Rob.
other guy. Yeah, Rob and another guy.
Yeah, I'm telling you, there's an incredible group of people out there. We just all need to get connected to each other.
Well, send me some more suggestions, and we'll get them on.
Friends of friends, the friends of friends.
That's right. Love you guys. Bye.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
It won't go off. There it goes.
That was a good show, Mr. Beans. Another good one.
Sayonara. Yeah, you did good. You're a professional.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you. Professional
Well, you're a
what?
professional pork and beans.
Professional interrupt. I'm not as bad as interrupting as I used to be.
Professional pork and beans show host.
Well, thank you. And you're a
You-
professional co-host.
I'm a co-host. Yeah.
Well, I'm your co-host too. We could go
We're
back and forth.
codependent.
Yeah. I mean, you could say that I'm your co-host. I could say that you're my co-host. So we're both co-hosts.
I'm dependent on depends.
Yeah, that's a sticky situation, I must say. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for your patronage. Don't forget to check out my YouTube channel, Sasquatch BC, The True Story. I got a book out if you want to check it out on Amazon. And it's actually edited properly now. It's a Sasquatch story, My Life with the Clan of RE. Let me just grab it. Can you see it? No.
No, put it in front of your face. There you go. Yeah, and then talk a little bit.
So it's actually perfectly edited now. So there's nothing wrong with it.
It's gone into the netherworld.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. That a Sasquatch story, My Life with the Clan of RE. You can check that out. Please subscribe to our channel. We love you all, and don't forget this is a safe place to share your experiences. And if you know anybody that wants to come on the show, or you want to come on the show, just get a hold of us on the Facebook group or message me personally at brianbland54@gmail.com, and we'll do that. And everything's good. Let's keep the love train rolling. See you, Mr. Beans.